Hey, this is Josh Blaylock, and you're listening to G.I. Joe Chronicles.
The LONGBOX CRUSADE presents
G.I. Joe Chronicles.
Don't they realize they're dealing with Destro?
When I chew Scud's bucket, they're gonna scrape you off the walls with a squeegee.
Now stop sputtering like a wet toaster and get busy!
Welcome to G.I. Joe Chronicles. I'm one of your commanders, Pat Sampson, codename DJ Kristatos. And joining me, as always, is my battle buddy in this operation, Jarrod Albrick, codename Death Probe.
That is a prescription for danger.
At ease, DJ Kristatos, and to all the green shirts tuning in for this podcast, I want to welcome everybody back to Fort Longbox. We appreciate you tuning in to talk some G.I. Joe comics with us as we chronicle our way through some new stuff. Over this new series, we're going to be chronicling our way through G.I. Joe, America's Elite on this episode. And on the next episode, we will go to our coverage of G.I. Joe Special Missions by Marvel. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth for the foreseeable future. But for this episode, we are back in the G.I. Joe America's Elite series from 2005. We don't have a special ops guest on this one because Pat and I were basically doing the 0 issue, the 25-cent issue of America's Elite to kick that off. And then we're going to do a back-to-back recording. So we're about to record the next episode, which is going to be the G.I. Joe 50 from the 80s, which is the very first appearance of Special Missions. So they're kind of smaller snippet things. So we decided to kick this off the way we kicked off G.I. Joe Chronicles of Devil's Due Years with just the two of us. And we'll have guests in the future. I'm pretty positive that Matt Passo is going to be a guest in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jim Meal didn't show up around these parts again soon.
we're just waiting for all the paperwork to get settled so then Matt can come over to the Fort Longbox here and join us.
You know who works in the personnel office of Fort Longbox?
Laurel,
yeah. Sergeant Mountain Flower.
Sergeant Mountain Flower, yep. She's always busy. It's like I walk in there, there's all this paperwork that's there to be done, and it looks like something's going on, but every time I walk in there, she's not there, so I don't know where she is.
It's weird. So we've got a lot coming your way. But again, this episode, we're going to be talking about G.I. Joe America's Elite, the number 0 issue, also known as the 25-cent issue. So without any further ado, I'll turn it over to DJ Kristatos for this episode's Intelligence Report.
All right. Well, for this first mission of this new phase that we're in, we'll be covering G.I. Joe America's Elite, issue 0. It's the 25-cent special. Publisher was Devil's Due. Got a cover date of June 2005. Writer was Joe Casey. Penciler is Stefano Caselli. Inker, Andrew Popoy. Colorist is Sundar Raj. Letterer is Steve Seeley. Cover art, Stefano Caselli and Sundar Raj. And speaking about the cover, Death Probe, please take us through the cover description.
Here we go.
Take cover!
A new Joe team is stepping out from the rubble. With a very crimson air about them, the team of Stalker, Roadblock, Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, Duke, Scarlet, Flint, and presumably Shipwreck. He's kind of cut off on the edge there. They emerge, and the cover blurb reads, "A new beginning."
So, Jarrod, what do you think about the cover?
I think it's fantastic. It's a really great launching point. By now, the final episode of G.I. Joe Chronicles, The Devil's Due Years, has aired. And we're just continuing it. We're just dropping The Devil's Due Years. They're still going to keep the same numbering system for our episodes and all that stuff. But the point is, we learned from our special guest on the last episode that the whole reason that they stopped that run and started America's Elite was just basically sales. Like a fresh title and a fresh boost will bring fresh sales. And what a really good marketing idea to bring out this 25-cent adventure. So it prominently says 25 cents on the cover. It's just a really good looking cover. It kind of tells you who's going to be on the team. I like the smoky rubble. It also is a hint of what goes on in it. And so I just really like its monochromatic look. It feels like something new is starting. And I think one of the things that subtly plays with your mind to tell you that as a Joe fan is I think I see Storm Shadow hanging out with the Joes, which is interesting.
That you do. I think it's a very heroic kind of cover. When you look at it, it's kind of like that. The gang's back together and we got everybody assembled. Now we're going to walk out in this cool heroic montage of stuff coming. There's bullets or something happening. But for this one, it's just we're coming from this rubble. Out of the ashes comes a new beginning sort of a thing. It does kind of feature about what happens in the issue. So that's a good thing as well, too, is you like to see your cover kind of tell a little bit of the story or at least get you interested in what's happening. Trying to figure out who's all there. You did a great job of naming off who you could see by the silhouettes and all that. And it is. Storm Shadow is there next to Snake Eyes. Yeah, I like it. I think it's the color work really is done well. It's kind of smoky, blurry a little bit. And I kind of like the title, America's Elite. And that's really what this new series is kind of about of what I'm getting from here. But we'll get into that once we get into the story. With that, why don't we figure out how we're going to rate this cover on a scale of 1 to 10 flag points, 1 meaning you didn't like it at all, and 10 meaning it's perfect and you should make it a recruiting poster out of it. Jarrod, is this recruiting poster worthy?
I like it a lot. It could be. I like this image a lot. Whew, you would have thought I would have put some, thought into what I was going to score this cover leading up to it.
Yeah.
I fixed the script up and tweaked it like 3 weeks ago. You would have thought I would have got a score in mind, but I didn't. So, man, I'll go with my instinct. And I'm going to say it is a 9 out of 10. I like it a lot.
Ooh.
I'm not sure if it's perfect.
Okay.
But I'm interested in your thoughts.
Okay. See, I didn't want to go super high, and I guess the reason why I didn't want to go to super high because it wasn't one of those somewhat iconic of a covers that I would remember. So I'm going to place myself at an 8 with this. So you going at the 9, I was surprised that you did that. I
like it a lot.
I like it, and believe me, it's a really nice looking cover. It's just there's something missing that I'm not sure what it is for me. But I guess I've been hanging around Delvin too long to where I want to set the bar at a certain range because possibly there might be a better cover down the road, but I don't want to show all my cards right away.
Hanging around Delvin too long is a real problem.
Yep, he rubs off on me.
Yeah,
and you don't want that.
I don't need to know any more of that.
So yeah, pretty good cover for 25 cents, I would say.
I think it's fantastic for 25 cents. Really like this one. We did get some cover thoughts for people in our super secret chat because we are recording this exclusively for our Patreon members. Matt gave it an 8. Jim gave it an 8. Jim specifically said he likes the grittier take on the cover, and it grabbed his attention. So everybody's with you at an 8. I'm all alone on 9 Island. I really like this one.
Just me here playing my Delvin part, and I guess I didn't rub off on you like Delvin rubbed on me.
I'm uncomfortable with this whole conversation.
What happens in the barracks stays in the barracks. With the cover out of the way, let's go back to Death Probe for the story synopsis in our mission brief.
All right, Pat.
Look in the eyes of a hero and see the sacrifice within. There's no way out for the hero. He only lives to fight again. Our hero stands tall, not for fortune or fame, protect freedom, because we all just wanted the same. Real heroes don't give up. They fight through the...
It looks like things are finally bouncing back for the Joes since the last time we saw them. Their team is limited, but once again is officially sanctioned by the president. And with General Ray gone on secret ops, the president wants the original Joe Colton, to run the team. Some of the Joe team is stateside, getting set up in their new base located in Wyoming, and Stalker is doing the fun stuff, leading a small band of Joes around the globe to squash out Cobra clandestine cells. But it's all hands on deck when a satellite plummets from orbit and destroys a large chunk of Chicago. The Joe team sends responders to assist in the cleanup effort as they try to determine whether or not it's an accident. Hawk is certain that Cobra Commander is behind it, but we, the readers, discover that it is the return of an old Joe foe, Vance Wingfield.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
Okay, it is now time for our highs and lows on the issue. We will go into round one. Pat, you get to go first.
I like the way they explained what was happening with the older team or some of the team members from the end of the Devil's Due run. Like, what was Ray doing? Why isn't he there right now? And how the other team members kind of came together again. I was really surprised, though, with Joe Colton. I couldn't remember if he survived or not the last round. Didn't he get hurt?
He did. In fact, we thought he'd been killed.
Yeah.
I want to say near the very end there, they alluded to the fact that he had made it.
Okay. I was wondering about that, but I'm like, where was he before? And peek behind the curtains, we do record these things well in advance. And so it's been a while since we read and talked about the final Devil's Due run. So I liked it. I liked that he was kind of taking over. And I like that they have a more slimmer team. And the people that they chose for the team, I like that concept of what's kind of happening here.
I agree. I like the team. I'm really excited about the curveball of Storm Shadow. You know, he's kind of always been a back and forth guy, and now he's around, which is interesting. I like bringing in Joe Colton, the original Joe, although, you know, we're definitely interested to see what happens with General Ray.
Mm-hmm.
So, I agree with you. This new team setup and how they're being used. And, you know, I'm a big Stalker fan. So seeing Stalker out in the wild, just doing, like I said, in the synopsis, fun stuff, you know, that's great. But I think my biggest overall high here in round one has got to be Stefano Caselli and Sundaraj team up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I also don't want to leave out Andrew Papoy. The art team here is incredible. I think it's 20 pages, just shy of a full issue.
Yeah.
It just really looks so good. I mean, they definitely went best foot forward on this, knowing that this was a new jumping on point for new readers. Speaking of which, we got Matt in the chat who said he hadn't read it since it was released, but his comments are that it's a G.I. Joe book that is in his collection. So awesome, Matt. We appreciate you being here at the Crusaders Club member only recording. But Pat, what are your thoughts on the art?
Oh, yeah. I really enjoy the art in this one. It took a little bit to get used to from what we saw in the previous one, but a little more grittier, somewhat darker in some ways, but I think done really nicely. And just to think about it, you know, this is 25 cents at the time. And so you really got a lot out of this for 25 cents story-wise, definitely the art-wise, for sure. So for them to do this for 25 cents, I think it was a good play on that to get more people revitalized for this coming new series.
Yeah, and as I understand it, by the way, that is a operating loss for Devil's Due. They clearly cannot turn a profit at 25 cents a book. It's kind of like free comic book day. Your comic book store is paying for those comics. It's free to you, but it is an effort to get new people into the shop. Just like this is an effort to get new readers on. People say, oh, for 25 cents, why not? I mean, why would you not pick it up? And I remember there was a lot of comic companies at this time doing that. I remember there was like a Batman, I want to say it was a 12-cent adventure or the 13-cent adventure that was right around this time. I think Superman did it, but it's one of those things where they offer it at a loss to them. They're losing money by producing that book, but they may be gaining the momentum, you know, really getting some attention for when that America's Elite 1 hits the shelf. People go, well, you know, I paid $25 for the first one, and they're hoping that story and that art team hooks people. And I think they set themselves up pretty well for success here. So, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember how many issues this whole series goes, so definitely looking forward to reading it through again. It's been quite a long time, and there's probably some issues that I may have even skipped along the way in getting this because at the time, just could have been around the time too where I was kind of in it, but not in it all the way. And you get that big stack of comics that you just keep getting, and you just don't have time anymore to read when you can. Or my point is when I had to read, I'd start to read something and I'd fall asleep.
I won't lie. My comic book reading was staunch right up until 2006 when my son was born, and then it got spotty, and then it went away, and then he got a little older, and I thought, okay, I can get back into it, and I got back into it for a little while, and then I started the art career and all that stuff, and it was like, yeah. Now I get to read comics for podcasts. So this is like, I love podcasting because it forces me to read.
Exactly. And that's why I like doing this. This is I had such a great time going through the Devil's Due side of it with you and just having the conversations we've had and the conversations that other people have brought in with our guests and other people chatting and commenting about the show. So we really do appreciate anytime anybody reaches out to us and provides their thoughts or their information that they have on the show. It means a lot to us and just helps us grow and have some fun.
Speaking of which, we've got Jim Meal in the comments right now of our super secret Crusaders Club members only recording. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're like, how do these people get in early?
How do they get that? Yeah. How do I get all the access and super secret access?
I'm going to let you know. We'll let you know officially in a minute, but just a little hint, patreon.com/longbox crusade for as little as $1 a month. But Jim said that Devil's Due is doing what they do best, bringing in little used characters from the history of G.I. Joe. And I think he's really hinting at the reveal of Wingfield.
Okay, let's talk about that then.
We need to talk about it. Go ahead.
Let's talk about that because I am trying to remember where this guy is from. Because I'm Wingfield. I'm like,
I had an inkling. I had a vague inkling, and I looked it up, and I was right.
Okay.
Do you want hints, or do you want me to just tell you? Do not look in the chat because I believe somebody's already revealed it in the chat.
Give me a little bit because this never came up in the Devil's Due run.
No.
Right? Okay.
This is from the Marvel run.
I was trying to think of like, man, the name sounds
now you
familiar.
have to think like, what is Jarrod? If I'd read it recently, I wouldn't have had to look it up, right? So you have to think, what has Jarrod read? It's been a while. Remember when I bought those digests, Pat? There's your hint.
Okay. Oh boy, so digest was older. Digests were really old. Any other hints you can give me?
It's going to be one of the first 2 digests. That's how far back this guy goes. It might have been the first one, but it might have been in the second one.
Boy. Oh, I know it.
What is it?
Was he the guy that they infiltrated? He had like an army he was building and
yes.
Oh, it's just, yeah. And that's got the, and now I remember that cover now. Oh yeah. He was a crazy guy.
Yeah, I think it's issue 4, and that's what Jim was saying in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh,
he was going to introduce in issue 4 of the Marvel run, and I'm almost positive that is a Bob Hall cover. Remember, we sat next to Bob at Heroes Con 2 years ago, and he was just across the way from us this last one. I'm pretty sure that's a Bob Hall cover.
All right,
it's basically just like the team running towards the camera. It's a weird looking cover, but it's cool.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
Now I
definitely
remember
the militia guy.
Yeah, he was that guy, and then he was going to shoot off like a rocket or send a jet over and to do a bombing and this
something like that. Yeah, that's the memory I have as well. I'm certainly count on Jim in the chat for details.
Well, I'm just so happy that I pulled it out.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
I'm actually now I remember, and I'm remembering details about that issue. Didn't we talk about that one? I can't remember now. I have to go back to our old Joe stuff when we covered the Longbox Crusade.
Way back in the Longbox.
Earlier. Way back in the vault there.
In the vault, yes.
All right. Well, that's cool because now it makes more sense. And that's really cool for them to kind of pull out this guy because I'm like, why does he have such a big beef with all that's going on? But he kind of actually then succeeded in doing what he did.
Yeah.
A little bit, I guess.
I really liked it. Like I said, I had an inkling and I had to look him up. So it was a stretch, but it was a big reward for like deep dyed in the wool Joe fans like Jim in our chat. But I liked it because I really liked the part where, you know how Hawk is like obsessed with Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
Like there was an issue about that, if you remember correctly. There was an issue where he had to face his demons just not too long ago in the Devil's Due run.
Yeah.
And that was his thing. He was like, Cobra Commander, I know it is. It can only be him, but we, the readers, find out that Wingfield's back, this sort of side character. I thought that was a neat way to start it. Kind of leave Cobra Commander on the back burner for a while. Let's take a break from him. Let him, I'm sure he will reinsert himself in this story at some point.
So really from a Joe side, then people that are currently active, you got Stalker that would remember it.
Mm-hmm.
You got Snake Eyes.
Yep.
Scarlet. And that's about it, right? Because Duke doesn't know him. That was before. Hawk would know him.
Hawk would know. Yeah.
But I guess he wouldn't. Why would he even think that?
But right now he's obsessed with Cobra Commander.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was actually questioning who was going to do it. That was one of my notes here was who is the villain before the reveal. Was it a Cobra? Could it have been Destro maybe? That could have been a possibility too. Or could it have been Serpentor? Maybe. Yeah.
Now you
Very
know.
interesting.
It's
Now I know,
Wingfield.
yeah. and knowing is half the battle. Wow.
It is indeed. It is indeed. I only have one more point I want to talk about, and then I'll let you run your mouth. I liked that they showed the Joes doing a response to a tragedy, cleanup effort. Just struck a personal chord with me because, thinking back on my military career, some of my very favorite days and moments were those kind of missions, relief missions, and helping the civilians. We did a lot of work with evacuating the Hurricane Katrina folks from Louisiana. And that's just some of the most rewarding work I ever did. So it was neat to see the Joes participating in that, not so much action, go find, kill. They're working on that in the background, but in the foreground, they're doing what they can to help it. I like that.
Yeah, that was very cool to see. And I wonder if it may have been somewhat of a callback to, 9/11 a little bit.
Certainly had that feel.
Definitely had that feel for me that it was, well, what if something like this happened? What would the Joes actually do? And like you said, normally troops would come and help out where they can and do what they need to do. Not only, help citizens, but also like you said, on the other front, go take down the terrorist or whoever may possibly have caused this to the United States. It felt to me like it was kind of like a 9/11 callback, especially when Devil's Due first came out. It was right at that time.
Yeah, it came out like the day after, right? Yeah. Remember that time. The day after 9/11, the first Devil's Due issue hit the stands.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if possibly maybe they're like, hey, let's kind of do what we could, because people were thinking, I myself as well, what would the Joes do, things like that. So I don't know if that was the case at all. If it was,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You have captured something that is lost to time, and I think that's worth discussing on this episode. I think we talked about it way back around issue 1. It's like you have to understand at this time. This was still. I mean, this was a couple of years later, but this is still. There's a post 9/11 sentiment of patriotism. I can remember going like to the comic shop and being like, I want G.I. Joe and I want Captain America. I wanted those strong patriotic things. I mean, that's kind of how I'm wired. Nothing's changed in the last 20 something years. That's who I am. But I remember feeling it more so in that time.
Definitely.
So I mean, even though we're a couple of years out from it, when did this you did this hit the stands in 2005. This was like 4 years later, but it's still at least for me it rang true. But I lived in the military world.
I think from a civilian point of view too, it did for me as well. We still, everybody was gung ho, I guess is a good way to put it. Like you said, patriotic. We were all helping each other out and doing everything.
Seeing this country as unified as it was in those.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it takes something terrible to do that. But Matt in the chat says, as a matter of fact, I'll see how many other rhymes I can do here. He signs off on this too, says, I love that Joes can show the best of us, of people in general. They show that the normal Joes can stand up and do what's right when it's needed. Absolutely. Absolutely. That has been my experience. The vast majority of people I served with shoulder to shoulder, regardless of branch of service, just were the best people. They just had the best hearts. And well said, Matt. Well said.
Definitely. And especially too, when you think about that, the character moments that were in this as well, going back to the previous stories and developments like Flint, man, you can see he's definitely
a different
changed.
Flint.
Yeah. And I don't know what the time difference is between the end of the first run to the America's Elite run in story mode time. It seems like it might have been a little while. in between that, but definitely not enough for him to forget what had happened. The other thing, they got a new base that they're bringing back or bringing up again. I like that as well too. But just the character moments for some of them, Hawk we talked about as well too, and his big mad on for Cobra Commander, and
which is funny because we talked about this too. If you think about it, and I think Jim was in on this chat on an earlier recording we did back in Devil's Due era. He should be mad at Zartan because I'm pretty sure it was Zartan that shot him.
Yeah, exactly. But he doesn't know it.
He hasn't put that puzzle together yet.
Oh, I wonder if that would get.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, he already was obsessed with Cobra Commander before that. Like, that's the incident that solidified it. So, I mean, dude's always going to be obsessed with Cobra Commander. But the fact that it actually was Zartan, it's another little twist for you.
Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say. It was a quick read, but an enjoyable read. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Yeah, in the end, I think it's a great 25-cent, get them hooked, because like you said, we checked in with the team members, like especially the ones that had significant things happen. Flint, Hawk. We've done our check-in with what their status is. We've had gorgeous art. We have a trimmed down roster of characters, that very recognizable characters, They're not dropping the 25-cent adventure with like fast draw, and psych out. They've grabbed a lineup that people will recognize. They've put them in an exciting situation. The space-based weaponry that's attacked Chicago. Like, what's going on? They've revealed an old enemy. They've dusted off an old enemy. So I think they got a lot of mileage out of this one.
I definitely think it's a little bit darker than what we were seeing in the other run a little bit. A little more high stakes, I want to say.
Absolutely. I apologize to all the Psych Out fans out there. Matt in the chat stood up for Psych Out there when I ran. No one stood up for Fast Draw. but hey. Yeah. Anyway,
pick and choose. You got to pick and choose.
You got to pick and choose your favorite. I actually, I do kind of like Psych Out's costume design. I always like the guys who kind of stand out and look different, even when they're wacky. Anyways, enough of that. Pat, I think it's time for the IG's report on the combat readiness of this issue.
All right. For those who don't speak military, that means we're going to score this issue story on the same 1 to 10 flag points scale we used earlier. So, Jarrod, on a 1 to 10 flag points, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, how would you rate this story?
All right, Pat. My score is going to require some explanation, but not much. On the surface of it, when I look at the pieces, the parts, the art, the story, the hook, and all that, I really like it at about a 9.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not all the way to 10 blown away with it, but I'm going to score it a 10.
Yo, Joe!
Because for it to be a 9 and to cost a quarter,
okay,
it's a 10. It's an absolute, like, if you're buying this off the rack for a quarter, you bought yourself a great introduction of a new arc. So bizarrely enough, my heart says a 9, but you factor in the economics. I'm a Ferengi at heart. I'm all about that Latin baby. Okay. 25 cents, I give it a 10.
Okay. I can see where you're at on that. I was, again, hanging around Delvin, feeling I shouldn't go so high.
This is a problem. Yeah. This is a problem.
Well, it was Heroes Con, and I was hanging out with Delvin, and we were having some fun. It's just, that's how it goes. But in this conversations that we've had, and now that I understand who the reveal was, I'm going with a 9. I can't meet you at the 10, but I can definitely give it a 9 and agree with you that I'd give it a 9.25
for the quarter.
For the quarter, yes. I mean,
it's
definitely
stupid enough that I'm going to allow it.
All right, it's not a half-seas because it would take 2 quarters. They were smart. They only did it for a quarter, so 9.25 for me on this one.
I feel like we're judging figure skating at this point. But
that's true.
I'm going to allow it. It's our first episode of America's Elite. It's just stupid enough to allow it. I've got Jim in the chat saying he rates it as a 9. He said it's a great art, story, and hook to bring you back. Matt asked the pointed question, if this was a full-size, full read, would it score like a 12 or a 13? Maybe, Pat. maybe a 10.25. Yeah, 10 and a quarter.
10 and a quarter, yeah.
No, I just really, really strong start. And we didn't even hit the beat that I believe Joe Casey's writing this. This is a talented guy who's written a lot of big name books, and I've always enjoyed his writing. I'm almost positive he guested on our friend Shag's show, the JLI show. I believe he went over there. So definitely check out Joe Casey over on the Fire and Water Network on the Justice League International podcast. I'm almost positive he guested there about a year or two ago.
Oh, okay.
Talented cat. We didn't even really bring up his name. We probably should. So they put a name writer on it. They put a pretty nice penciler on it. Nice art team. So, yep, we got high scores all around.
Definitely. And the letterer is Steve Seeley. Is he related to?
I think he's Tim's brother.
Okay.
I can't prove that in a court of law. I don't have paperwork to back that up.
Just wondering.
But I think that's Tim Seeley's brother. That's conjecture on my part at this time.
All right. Very good. All right. Well, with our rating out of the way, it is now time to award this episode's Silver Star Medal or Silver Snake for gallantry in action or sneaky snakitude. This is where we each get to award the character in the issue who went above and beyond the call of duty. So, Jarrod, do you have a silver star or do you have a silver snake?
I guess I'm going to have to use a snake on this one. I mean, he's not exactly Cobra, but Colonel Wingfield is living high on the... you know what? Is he actually a colonel? I keep saying Colonel Wingfield.
I think he was.
Okay, that's just the name of the colonel I served under when I was in Iraq, so I just automatically say colonel.
Oh, okay.
In front of Wingfield.
No, that's a second.
So Wingfield, I don't know if he's a colonel or not. Wingfield, he's winning. His plan went to fruition, and it was probably because he didn't broadcast it or try to extort him. He just did it. He got everybody's attention all of a sudden. They're all trying to figure out who it is, and his crazy ass is winning right now. So I don't like giving him the silver snake, but he's on top right now.
I am going to second you. That is who I have as well, too, as the villain. For this issue, definitely was and goes to the sneaky snakitude of Winfield. For everything that you said, that his plan came together. The Joes, they don't know who it is. Kind of made them kind of uneasy, right? And you have a lot of people uneasy, even the president that's saying, hey, let's activate the Joes. They need to do something here. I'm not going to activate a big team, but I'm going to act a team that can actually do what they need to do again and kind of figure this out. And it's just that they're unknown of who this is. So very well done. Makes me want to read some more.
Definitely agree.
And now I'll hand it back over to Jarrod for his segment of Death Probe's Toy Chest.
It's here, the G.I. Joe collection, each sold separately. G.I. Joe from Hasbro.
Okay, Pat. This is a long time coming here for Death Probe's Toy Chest. This is the segment where I take something or someone that's featured in this book and give you a brief toy history on it. For this issue, I've selected, it's been a long time coming, Pat, Stalker. He's one of my very favorite Joes, and I haven't covered him in the Toy Chest.
I know. I'm surprised. Wow.
I have a little list of people I've covered, and I was like, how have I not covered Stalker? And, he got to have a little fun in this one because he's the action man out in the field. I've always favored Stalker, from that original lineup. He had a unique look. Basically, the unique look characters were him, Snake Eyes, and Scarlet. They had the most unique looks. I just always loved him as the enlisted field leader, which is why I've always sort of booed to Duke, because he sort of showed up and took Stalker's job and just wasn't as cool as Stalker, in my opinion. But you know what? Let me get to the toy history on it, and then we'll discuss it. Okay, Stalker. He is a ranger. That's his big. He's a ranger right there on the file card. I'm sure you remember that. His real name is Alonzo R. Wilkinson. He is from Detroit, Michigan. His specialties include infantry, medic, and interpreter. His figure description for the original one, his original 3 3/4, is a camo suit. He has black tack gear and a green beret. His accessories include a black M32 pulverizer submachine gun, and he was first released in 1982 as part of Series 1. He got discontinued in 1985 in stores. He was still available via mail order all the way until 1987. And currently, at the time of this recording, which is in July of 2023, there are 14 or 15 versions of Stalker.
Wow.
In 3 3/4 inch scale. It depends on whether or not you count the swivel arm, the 1.5 upgrade. Okay. And actually, I'm almost positive there's a 15th or 16th version. Yojo.com has not been updated in quite some time. They did come out with a one about Jim's going to be able to correct me in the chat. They came out with a version, I want to say a 2022 version in 3 3/4, very much like this original one. So I get all my data from Yojo.com and it hasn't been updated. So I'm almost positive instead of 14 to 15, we're kind of at the 15 to 16 mark. Mm-hmm. But details, right? Mm-hmm. The most important thing to ask here is, did you have the figure, Pat?
I did have me a Stalker, and that I got from way back then when I was a kid. So again, another standout character. And I really like the hat that he wore. What kind of hat was it again?
It's a beret.
What kind of beret?
It's a green beret.
Would it be the kind you would find at a Camel?
Nope, you're thinking of a
store?
Maybe at that kind of not a secondhand store. A secondhand store, you find the raspberry first.
Yeah, a secondhand you get the raspberry ones, but I think the green ones you get it.
Yeah, military surplus store.
Yeah, I went a long way really didn't go anywhere with it.
I can save you. We have a lot of chat about it from our super secret folks that were able to tune in for this episode.
I just want to say before we get into that, you mentioned that Duke taking over his kind of spot for leadership. I think that's just Stalker's character is he's a leader, but he also knows, hey, I don't need to fight for that. I do what I do and I'm good at it. And I just play my part. And this is my part that I have to play. And he just does it.
Oh, he's a professional. I mean, we never saw him get upset about the loss of the senior NCO position because he's a professional. So I like him. I mean, he's a medic. He speaks different languages. He's a professional. He's tough. Dude fought a crocodile with a knife. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember.
And won. So yeah.
No, Stalker's awesome. Yeah.
Speaking of Stalker, we have Matt in the chat says that Stalker is a great choice, and he's got a version 1.5, which is this version I talked about, just with the swivel arm in the last few months. That's awesome. Paul says Stalker was his nickname before he got married. I believe it. Matt says
I just got
that. Matt says that the Stalker that came in with the comic packs in the 2000s is a great sculpt as well, and I concur. Jim Meal says version 2 of Stalker is in my top 5 favorite Joes. He never had a version 1 until recently. Version 2, if I'm not mistaken, Jim, is more like Arctic. He's got a white jacket. He can put on a mask. He's got a little like a kayak looking thing in the version 2 of Stalker, which I also haven't always enjoyed. And Jim did confirm that the retro release from Walmart of Stalker, similar to this design but with a more modern mold, was released in the last year or two. Paul Hicks also said that he had a version 1.
Very cool.
Being the Stalker fan that I am, I'm pretty sure I have all the versions of Stalker because
you're fancy.
I'm fancy.
You're all the fancy, Jarrod.
All the fancy. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my brother Jason the Weasel Skull. This is his number 1 Joe. Stalker is his favorite Joe, and he's top 2 or top 3 for me for sure. I love Stalker. So welcome to Stalker Cast. It's all Stalker all the time from here on in, every episode.
Where we take deep dives into the panels that Stalker are in, and we talk about what he looks like, what he's wearing, what's going on around him, what would be his thoughts, and then some.
I can't say enough about it. I love Stalker.
He's a great guy, again, his character is somebody that we all know, and that's why I mentioned before is, knowing about him and how he was portrayed either in the comics or in the cartoon. He was always a stand-up guy.
Mm-hmm. He's one of the characters that really is, welcome to Stalker Cast episode 1. He's one of the characters that really has the same character beat in the comic and the cartoon. Very, very similar.
Played the same, yeah.
I also have his classified. Matt said that he got a classified figure as well. Just as a reminder, though, when we count versions and stuff on this particular podcast, we're only doing 3 3/4. classified being the 6-inch, but it's definitely worth mentioning because it is a great mold and it looks really, really good. So yeah, there is a classified. I want to say at one point he even got a 12-inch figure when they were doing those in like the early 90s. Could be wrong. I know they made a Snake Eyes. I know they made a Rock and Roll.
Okay.
I
can see that. Yeah.
Got one. Anyways, that's why we do 3 3/4 on the show. Oh, Stalker. Great character and a great toy.
All right. Well, next up is our feedback segment called Combat Comms. As always, we want to start off Combat Comms with a roster of our battle-hardened Crusader Club veterans. These are the fine folks that have joined us on our Crusaders Club. They enjoy early access to special Longbox video episodes, just like we're doing now, recording a live show just for them. And you later on down the road. But if you're a Crusader Club member and you get all the access, you'll get to hear it live and be part of it. You also get into some free raffle giveaways, voting on show programming, and so much more. So these are the fine folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
And Helica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robinson.
Dave Collins.
Battle Wagon.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary Viola.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Jason Keene.
Jim Lady.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Meal in the top secret chat.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Kathy Bright, the MVP in the chat, in the secret chat.
Mark Ross, a.k.a. Clark Trent.
Matt and Lizzie Passo.
Secret chat. Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks in the chat, down on the chat.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cup. If we missed anybody in our list, we do apologize. Please keep in mind that we recorded these episodes well in advance of release. So if you are a recent addition, we should be adding you soon. But still, no worries. Just let us know that we missed you by sending us an email at contact@longboxcrusade.com and we'll get it all straightened out. We'll see if Laurel is working in the office building or not. She's going through the paperwork, but don't worry, we'll get to it and she'll help us out as well too. So you might be asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? And how do I get the secret access? Well, it's simple. You just head on over to patreon.com and search for Longbox Crusade for as little as $1 a month. That's $1. It gets you all this access. And I'm talking all the access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. So make sure you come and check it out. Now let's see what messages from our platoon of loyal listeners we have waiting for us on Breaker's Comsat.
Call it G.I. Joe! Go get Breaker! He can do it!
These are from episodes 40 and 41, where it was Jarrod and me and Gary V, the Ironmonger. And for a little bit, I thought maybe it would have been the Ironmonger who was maybe causing all the damage in this episode. But
it wasn't. Yeah.
It wasn't. No, Gary wouldn't be like that.
Speaking of Gary, he's the first commenter. He says, it's always a pleasure to chat G.I. Joe with these fine fellows. Be like Orsted and pick up the phone.
Yeah, man, pick up that phone and just
pick it up.
Just pick it up. It's okay to dial, It doesn't cost you anything. Well, it does cost you something, but, it goes to a good cause.
Yeah, man. You can send, like, a carrier pigeon if you wanted. Like, if you want to be a little more, like, eco-friendly. Just make sure that pigeon doesn't have other things to do that day, because it'd be rude if you were like,
it's a day off or something, yeah.
Send out the pigeon.
I don't know. That's what a pigeon sounds like. Let's go ahead and move on to Scotty Cameron. And Scott Cameron says, you're getting so warm on the Ray reveal, you're almost on fire. I'm trying my best not to spoil it. I just rewatched G.I. Joe Retaliation to honor Ray Stevenson and just realized Xandar was in the movie. I bring that up because Xandar plays a key role in the Ray reveal. Ooh.
What reveal would be necessary? He's just a good dude.
Yeah, it's just a dude. You know, he puts his pants on just like all the other people that put their pants on, right?
Except he makes golden leadership decisions.
Yes. People call him Sir when he puts his pants on.
That's right. We got a comment from the Chaplain's Assistant's Motor Pod, which, by the way, is Gary, so he's double dipping. But he did once again say, this is always a fun show. It's great to join them. Pick up the phone. But I just really want to put that comment in there so people know that they can check out Chaplain's Assistant's Motor Pod.
I'll take another one from Scotty Cameron. And Scott says, funny thing is that the live action movies were part of my introduction into G.I. Joe. Oh, that's fascinating. That is definitely fascinating. In fact, I saw Retaliation in theaters on opening weekend for my 15th birthday. Oh, awesome. So Ironmonger being fond of them is fine. Also, the Red Shadows are an interesting foe for the Joes, which they could be. You know, there still could be some around here too.
Could be. I just think it's cool. He's clearly a younger listener. If Retaliation came out when he was 15, I think it's cool that he's a Joe fan. I think it's cool that he enjoys the films. I enjoy them too. Like, it's easy to get a pick on them, but like we said before, you want some good, just kind of popcorn fun. Why not? And if it's someone's gateway into G.I. Joe, I love it.
Might be a good podcast to do as well.
I like where your head's at. I got one here from Christian Romero, who simply posted a picture of his copy of, I think that's 40. I think 40?
41. That's 41.
Okay. I can't zoom in fast enough. He posted a picture of 41, which was that baller cover with Cobra Commander in the Red Rain. And he just said, got it. So it's in his collection.
Yeah. Red Rain. Red Rain. I only want to see the commander standing in the red rain. I had to.
Yeah, did you?
All right. Our next comment is from the Chaplain's Assistant Mortar Pod again. And Gary says, one of my favorite podcasts, now previewing Orsted's eulogies.
Eulogies, yes. I think we did a eulogy for somebody as Orsted, and I can't remember what we did. Under his G.I. Gary account, he also said that Orsted is available for eulogies. Check out a preview, listen to this fine podcast, Yo Joe, G.I. Joe podcast. You can always count on G.I. Gary to pump it up a bit.
I think G.I. Gary is our biggest Orsted supporter, so.
Yeah, well, aside from
Orsted loves it. Man, I love you, bro. I love you. Take another one from G.I. Gary as well, too, from the Chaplain's Assistant again, and it's another crossover with me and Orsted. Love these guys and their shows. Yo, Joe. Hashtag G.I. Joe. Hashtag listening.
What a great supporter. And another great supporter is Serpy Matt. We know Matt. And he said, I'm finally all caught up and waiting to see what's next. Well, there's lots of stuff coming for you, Matt.
I think Serpy Matt is actually in the chat.
He is in the clandestine chat, yes.
I figured it out. I put the two and the two together to make the three, and
it's all coming together. Now you got to ask yourself, what's the Serpy part all about? Because I know.
See, I don't know. I have to.
He's a big fan of
my friend, my buddy,
friend.
Oh, cool. He likes. I got a cool Serpenter buddy then.
I think you do.
Ooh. As a reminder, we really would appreciate and love to hear from you guys as well with a voicemail. And you can do that by leaving us a voicemail at 707-532-5269. That is 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone. And we do have one audio send in for this episode. We always ask folks if they would like to send in a Yo Joe. You can just call the number and say, Yo, Joe, and we'll add you to the Yo, Joe stack at the end of every episode. And we got the following voicemail, Pat. So that was a little off-putting because I got this voicemail and it just sounds like
that's right. That's right.
Remember, Pat? I messaged you about it. I was like, what is going on?
Listen to this. I'm like,
and I looked at the number and I like cross-referenced it with some of the phone numbers in my phone. And I said, wait, it's Rick. I was like, this is Rick. And I was like, I actually texted and called Rick because I was like, I couldn't understand that he was screaming Cobra. It just sounded like a scream. And I was like, are you okay? Were you in the middle of leaving us a voicemail when you drove off the road or something?
Yeah, we're all about safety. We're all about making sure people are all right and feeling good.
And he texted me back and said, no, I screamed Cobra. And now that he said it, I can hear the Cobra. Before I was like, what has happened? Anyway, we're glad that Rick's alive, even though he's part of Cobra.
Thank you, Rick, for sending that in. We really do appreciate it. And everybody else, join in the fun. We love hearing from you.
And that will bring us to mission complete status for this episode of G.I. Joe Chronicles. If you'd like to hear more from us in the realm of comic books, action films, vintage TV, movies, serials, and more, check out the entire Longbox Crusade Network. DJ Kristatos, where can they find that?
Well, Jarrod, I'm glad you asked. You can find the Longbox Crusade pretty much on all the podcatchers out there. That's right, all the podcatchers out there. Or you can just go to www.longboxcrusade.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and at YouTube, all at Longbox Crusade. Be sure to make sure you subscribe and like the YouTube stuff that we're doing. We just reached over 10,000 watches and over 250 subscribers on YouTube. So we really do appreciate everyone that has supported us there. And please continue to do. Help us grow this community. Back to you, Jarrod.
If you'd like to chat with us online, we can be found at... Back to you, Pat.
I can be found at Kristatos01. And Jarrod, I'm glad you asked, but let's go ahead and find out where you can be found on the internet.
I'm glad you asked me. I am at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and it's all at Yard Sale Artist. Check out my wares at www.theyardsaleartist.com, which includes a lot of G.I. Joe character sketches on pages of an army manual. In fact, the last one I did was Lieutenant Falcon for somebody super secret in the chat. So that print will be coming soon to add to all my other G.I. Joe prints.
I saw that, and that turned out really Falcon awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you're a big Falcon fan of it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us for this episode of G.I. Joe Chronicles. We'll see you back on the battlefield next episode. We'll cover the first of the 1986 special missions from Marvel found in G.I. Joe number 50 entitled Best Defense. Until then, platoon, fall out.
Yo.
The music themes for this show are done by musical genius Joe November. Please check out his SoundCloud at Josephline99. That's Joseflin 99. You will not regret it.
Jarrod? It gets me every time.
Every time.